The guard wasn't supposed to move. He wasn't supposed to speak. And he definitely wasn't supposed to break the oldest rule in the palace. But when he heard the scream, everything changed. It was a Tuesday morning in late autumn. The kind of morning where fog clung to the palace gates like a warning. Royal Guard Daniel Foster had been standing at his post for 2 hours. His back was straight, his eyes forward, his rifle perfectly still against his shoulder. He'd trained for this. 5 years in the military, 2 years guarding the royal family. He knew the rules better than his own heartbeat. Never move. Never speak. Never break formation. The tourists loved it. They'd stand inches from his face, waving their hands, making jokes. Children would try to make him smile. He never did, because that's what it meant to be a Queen's Guard. But that morning, something felt wrong. The air was too quiet. The usual chatter of tourists had faded. Even the birds seemed to have gone silent. Then he heard a child's voice. High and frightened. Please. Somebody help. Daniel's eyes shifted. Just slightly. Just enough to see her. A little girl. No more than 8 years old. She wore a navy blue coat with gold buttons. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a neat ponytail. She stood near the iron fence, her small hands gripping the bars. She was alone. Daniel's jaw tightened. He couldn't move. The rules were clear. No matter what happened, a guard must remain still. Breaking that rule meant losing everything. His position, his honor, maybe even criminal charges. But the girl's eyes found his. They were wide, terrified. Please, she whispered again. He's coming back. Daniel felt his pulse hammer in his ears. Who was coming back? Where were her parents? Why was a child this young alone outside the palace gates? He glanced left. His fellow guard, Marcus, stood 20 feet away, frozen, focused. Following the rules, Daniel looked right. Another guard. Same story. No one else had heard her. The girl took a step closer to the fence. Her hands were shaking now. I'm Princess Charlotte, she said quietly, her voice breaking. And if you don't help me, he's going to take me. Daniel's blood turned to ice. Princess Charlotte. The king's granddaughter. Third in line to the throne? But that was impossible. She would never be alone. She'd have bodyguards. A security team. A convoy of vehicles. Unless something had gone terribly wrong. Before you find out what happens next. If you love stories like this that pull at your heart and keep you on the edge of your seat, hit that subscribe button so you never miss one. Trust me, you'll want to see how this unfolds. Daniel's mind raced. Was this real? Was she really the princess? Or was this some kind of test? The palace ran drills. Sometimes. Fake scenarios to see. Guards would break. But her fear looked real. Her tears looked real. And then he saw him. A man in a dark jacket. Walking fast. Scanning the crowd. His eyes locked onto the girl. Charlotte saw him too. She gasped and stumbled backward. That's him, she breathed. Oh, please? Please don't let him take me. Daniel had 3 seconds to decide. Follow the rules and stay silent. Let whatever was happening unfold without him. Protect his career, his future, his life. Or break the rule. Risk everything. And trust his gut. The man was getting closer. Charlotte's hands were trembling against the gate. And Daniel made his choice. Daniel moved. It wasn't a big movement. Just a shift of his weight. A turn of his head. But for a Queen's Guard, it was everything. Stay close to the gate, he said under his breath. His lips barely moved. Charlotte's eyes went wide with relief. She pressed herself against the iron bars. The man in the dark jacket stopped. He'd seen Daniel move. Seen him speak. His expression changed from determination to caution. Daniel's heart was pounding so hard he thought his chest might burst. Every instinct screamed at him. You just ended your career. You just broke the sacred rule. But he couldn't stop now. Marcus, Daniel said, his voice low but urgent. We have a situation. Marcus, the guard to his left, didn't respond. Didn't even blink. He was following protocol. Staying frozen? Staying silent. Daniel was alone in this. The man in the dark jacket started moving again. Slower now. More careful. He pulled out his phone and made a call. His eyes never left Charlotte. "I need you to listen to me very carefully," Daniel said to Charlotte. His voice was steady, calm. The same voice he'd used in Afghanistan when mortars were falling. "Do you have any ID? Anything that proves who you are?" Charlotte's hands fumbled in her coat pocket. She pulled out a small silver bracelet. Even from 15 feet away, Daniel could see the royal crest engraved on it. His stomach dropped. This was real. This wasn't a drill. This wasn't a test. Princess Charlotte was in danger, and he was the only one who believed her. "How did you get here?" Daniel asked. "Where's your security?" Charlotte's voice cracked as she spoke. "We were going to the museum. Me and Miss Jennifer. She's my nanny. We stopped at a cafe. I went to the bathroom." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "When I came out, Miss Jennifer was gone, and that man was there. He said he worked for my grandfather. He said there was an emergency, and I had to come with him." Daniel's jaw clenched. Classic abduction tactic. Create panic. Create urgency. Make the child trust you. "But I remembered what Papa told me," Charlotte continued. "He said if anyone ever tries to take me and I don't know them, I should run to someone in uniform. Someone I can trust." Smart girl. Brave girl. But she'd run to someone who wasn't allowed to help her. The man was 30 feet away now. He'd finished his call. 2 more men appeared behind him. They weren't running, weren't shouting. They were moving like professionals, like people who knew exactly what they were doing. Daniel's options were disappearing fast. He could radio for help. But by the time backup arrived, Charlotte could be gone. Taken into a vehicle, disappeared into London's endless streets. He could grab her and pull her over the fence. But that would be assault. Kidnapping, technically, even if he was trying to save her, or he could trust the one thing he had left, his voice. "I need immediate backup at the North Gate," Daniel said into his radio. His words were clear, controlled. Possible code red involving a minor. "Royal family member claims to be in danger. Requesting supervisor and security detail now." Static crackled back. Then a voice. "Sergeant Miller." "Repeat that, Foster." "Code red. Northgate. Royal family member now." There was a pause. A long, dangerous pause. "Foster, are you breaking position?" Daniel looked at Charlotte. At her terrified face. At the men closing in. "Yes, sir." "I am." The radio went silent. The man in the dark jacket was 20 feet away now. Close enough that Daniel could see his face clearly. Mid-40s, clean-shaven, expensive watch. He looked like a businessman. Like someone who belonged near the palace. But his eyes were cold. "Step away from the child," the man said. His voice was smooth, confident. "This is a private family matter." The girl is confused. Charlotte shook her head violently. "I'm not confused. I don't know him. Your nanny will confirm it," the man continued. "This is a misunderstanding. You're making a scene over nothing, soldier." Daniel didn't move. "Then you won't mind waiting for palace security to verify that." The man's smile faded. "You're making a mistake," he said quietly. "A career-ending mistake." Daniel's hands tightened on his rifle. Not raising it. Not threatening. "Just ready," maybe Daniel said. "But I'd rather lose my job than let something happen to a child." For a moment, nobody moved. The fog seemed to thicken around them. The world held its breath. And then, in the distance, Daniel heard it. Sirens. The man heard them too. His expression shifted. Anger flashed across his face. He looked at the 2 men behind him. Some kind of silent communication passed between them. Then he turned and walked away. Just like that. No running, no panic. Just 3 men disappearing into the London streets as if they'd never been there at all. Charlotte's knees buckled. Daniel lunged forward, catching her through the gate bars, keeping her upright. "You're safe," he told her. "You're safe now." But as the sirens grew louder, and palace security vehicles screeched to a halt. Daniel realized something. This was only the beginning. The next 4 hours were chaos. Palace security flooded the north gate. Police vehicles blocked off the street. Plainclothes officers swarmed the area, searching for the men who'd disappeared into the crowd. Charlotte was rushed inside, wrapped in blankets, surrounded by doctors and security personnel. Her parents were contacted immediately. They'd been at a private engagement across the city, completely unaware their daughter had been missing. Daniel stood in a stone corridor deep inside the palace, still in his uniform, still holding his rifle, but no longer at his post. He'd been relieved of duty pending investigation. Sergeant Miller paced in front of him. The man's face was red with anger and confusion. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Miller said. "Do you understand the magnitude of breaking position?" Daniel kept his eyes forward. "Yes, sir," he spoke. "You moved. You abandoned your post. Those are court-martial offenses, Foster. Career-ending mistakes." "I understand, sir." Miller stopped pacing. He studied Daniel's face. Was she really in danger? Or did you just fall for a child's story? Daniel's jaw tightened. "She was in danger, sir. I'm certain of it. Certain." Miller's voice rose. "You're certain? Based on what? A scared little girl and some men who walked away?" "Based on my gut, sir, and the fact that those men disappeared the moment they heard sirens. Innocent people don't run." Miller rubbed his face with both hands. He looked exhausted. "The palace is launching a full investigation. They're reviewing security footage, tracking down the nanny, checking every detail of the princess's day. And until then," Daniel asked, "till then you're confined to quarters. No contact with the press. No contact with anyone outside the palace. If this turns out to be nothing, Foster, you're finished. Do you understand?" Daniel nodded. "Yes, sir." But he didn't believe it was nothing. He'd seen Charlotte's face. He'd seen those men. Something dark had almost happened today, and he'd stopped it. Miller turned to leave, then paused. "For what it's worth," he said quietly, "I hope you're right." Then he was gone. Daniel was escorted to a small room in the guard quarters. It had a bed, a window, and nothing else. He sat on the edge of the mattress and finally let himself breathe. His hands were shaking, not from fear, from adrenaline crashing, from the weight of what he'd done. He'd thrown away 5 years of military service, 2 years of palace duty, his entire career, his future, all for a little girl he didn't know. But when he closed his eyes, he saw her face again, heard her voice. "Please, please don't let him take." No. He'd made the right choice, even if it cost him everything. 3 hours later, there was a knock at his door. Daniel stood. "Enter." The door opened, and Daniel's breath caught. It wasn't Sergeant Miller. It wasn't another guard. It was Charlotte's father. Prince William stepped into the room. He was alone. No security. No photographers. Just a father who looked like he hadn't slept in days. Daniel snapped to attention. "Your Royal Highness." William held up a hand. "At ease, soldier." His voice was rough, strained. "Sit." Daniel sat. William took the chair across from him. For a moment, neither spoke. Then William leaned forward. His eyes were red-rimmed. "They found the nanny," he said quietly. "Miss Jennifer. She was unconscious in the cafe bathroom. Someone drugged her coffee. She never abandoned Charlotte. She was attacked." Daniel's blood ran cold. "Security footage shows 3 men entering the cafe," William continued. "One of them matches the description you gave. They were professionals, organized. They knew exactly when we'd be away, knew exactly where Charlotte would be." "An inside job," Daniel said. William nodded. "We believe so. Someone in our staff, someone we trusted." His voice cracked slightly. "If you hadn't listened to her, if you hadn't broken protocol, if you'd followed the rules like you were supposed to..." He stopped, took a breath. My daughter would be gone right now. Daniel felt something tight in his chest, relief, validation, and a deep aching sadness for what almost happened. She remembered what you taught her. She stayed calm. She found help. William's eyes met his. She found you. Another silence. Then William stood. Daniel jumped to his feet. The investigation is ongoing, William said. But I wanted you to know. You saved my daughter's life. You risked everything to protect a child you didn't know. That's not just courage, Mr. Foster. That's the kind of man we need protecting this family. Daniel didn't know what to say. You won't face charges, William continued. In fact, I'm personally recommending you for commendation. Breaking the rules to save a life isn't a crime. It's heroism. I was just doing what felt right, sir. William smiled. It was small, tired, but genuine. Sometimes that's all we can do. He moved toward the door, then stopped. Charlotte asked about you. She wanted to make sure you weren't in trouble. She said you were the bravest person she's ever met. Daniel felt his throat tighten. May I ask how she's doing? Shaken, but safe. Because of you. William extended his hand. Daniel shook it. Thank you, William said simply. From a father. Thank you. And he was gone. Daniel sat back down on the bed. His hands were still shaking, but this time it wasn't from adrenaline. It was from relief. Charlotte was safe. The truth had come out. He'd made the right call. But as he stared out the window at the darkening London sky, one question haunted him. Who had tried to take her? And were they still out there? The answer came 3 days later. Daniel was back on duty. Not at the public gates this time. He'd been reassigned to interior palace security. Closer to the royal family? A position of higher trust. It should have felt like a promotion. But it felt like a target on his back, because someone inside the palace had helped plan Charlotte's abduction. And that person was still here. Still working. Still watching. Daniel could feel eyes on him everywhere he went. Was it the butler who nodded politely in the hallway? The maid who cleaned his quarters? The other guards who congratulated him with tight smiles? Trust no one. That's what his military training had taught him. On the third morning, Daniel was called to a secure room in the palace basement. No windows. Concrete walls. A single table with 2 chairs. This was an interrogation room. Sergeant Miller was there. So was a woman Daniel didn't recognize. Mid-50s. Sharp suit. Eyes like steel. This is Detective Inspector Sarah Webb, Miller said. MI5, she's leading the investigation. Daniel's stomach tightened. MI5. Britain's security service. This wasn't just about a kidnapping attempt. This was about national security. Webb gestured to a chair. Sit, Mr. Foster. Daniel sat. Webb opened a folder. Inside were photographs. Surveillance images. The men from the cafe? The man in the dark jacket. Do you recognize any of these men? Webb asked. Daniel studied the photos. That one. The one who spoke to me at the gate? Webb nodded. His name is Marcus Hale, former military. Dishonorably discharged 3 years ago. Since then, he's worked for various private security firms. The kind that don't ask questions. A mercenary, Daniel said. Essentially, yes. App pulled out another photo. This is the inside man. Or rather, the inside woman. Daniel leaned forward. The photo showed a woman in her early 30s. Blonde hair. Pleasant face. She wore a palace staff uniform. Emily Carter, Webb said. She's worked in the household management office for 18 months. She had access to the royal family's schedules. Transportation routes. Security protocols. Why? Daniel asked. Why would she help them? Webb's expression hardened. Money, a lot of it. We traced payments to her account from an offshore company. £500,000 over 6 months. Daniel's jaw clenched. She sold out a child for money. She claimed she didn't know they were planning a kidnapping, Webb continued. She thought she was just providing information for tabloid photographers. Paparazzi shots. Celebrity gossip. Do you believe her? Webb closed the folder. No, but it doesn't matter what I believe. It matters what we can prove. Miller shifted in his seat. Where does Foster come in? Webb looked at Daniel. Her gaze was calculating, measuring. We've arrested Emily Carter. But we haven't arrested Hale. We want him to lead us to whoever hired him. The person with the real money, the real motive. And you need bait, Daniel said quietly. Webb smiled. It wasn't warm. You're smarter than your file suggests. I'm not interested in being bait. You already are, Webb said. The moment you saved Princess Charlotte, you became a problem for these people. They planned this for months. Paid a fortune. Put resources in place. And one guard with a conscience ruined everything. Daniel felt ice in his veins. You think they'll come after me? I know they will, Webb said. The question is whether we use that to catch them. Miller leaned forward. You don't have to do this, Foster. We can put you in protective custody. Relocate you. New identity. New life. Running, Daniel said. Surviving, Miller corrected. Daniel thought about Charlotte. About her terrified face at the gate. About the way she trusted him when no one else would listen. What would I have to do? He asked. Webb pulled out another document. Go about your duties. Act normal. But wear this. She slid a small device across the table. It looked like a button. It's a tracking device. And a panic button. If Hale or anyone else makes contact, we'll know immediately. And if they don't just talk, if they come with guns. We'll have eyes on you every moment, Webb said. Plainclothes officers. Surveillance teams. You'll never be alone. Ow. Daniel picked up the device. It was so small, so simple, and yet it represented everything. His life as bait. His choice to stay and fight instead of run. How long? He asked. Could be days. Could be weeks. Hale's gone underground. But men like him have egos. They don't like loose ends. And you're a very big loose end. Daniel looked at Miller. The sergeant's face was unreadable. What do you think? Daniel asked. Miller was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I think you've already proven you don't take the easy path. I think you do what's right, even when it costs you. And I think if anyone can handle this, it's you. Daniel nodded slowly. All right, I'm in. Webb stood. Good. We'll brief you on protocols. Safe houses. Emergency contacts. But Foster? She waited until he met her eyes. These people tried to kidnap a princess. They've killed for less. If you sense danger, even for a second, you hit that button. Understood? Understood? As Daniel left the room, the weight of the small device in his pocket felt heavier than any weapon he'd ever carried. He'd saved Charlotte once, but now? He had to survive long enough to make sure she stayed safe. And somewhere in London, Marcus Hale was watching, waiting, planning his next move. The next 72 hours were the longest of Daniel's life. He went through his duties mechanically. Standing guard, patrolling corridors, checking security logs. But every shadow felt like a threat. Every stranger's face could be an enemy. Webb's surveillance team was invisible. He never saw them. But supposedly, they were there, watching, protecting. He hoped they were as good as she claimed. On the fourth night, Daniel was walking back to his quarters when his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He stopped in the empty hallway. Every instinct screamed danger, he answered. Hello? A man's voice, smooth, familiar. Hello, Daniel. Marcus Hale. Daniel's hand moved to the panic button in his pocket. I wouldn't do that, Hale said calmly. I'm not there to hurt you. I'm calling to talk. About what? About a deal. Daniel's heart hammered against his ribs. His thumb hovered over the panic button. But he didn't press it. Not yet. What kind of deal? Daniel asked. His voice was steady, controlled. Years of military training taking over. The kind where you walk away from this alive, Hale said. The kind where you forget what you saw. Forget the princess. Forget everything. In exchange for what? Your life. And a substantial amount of money. Enough to start over anywhere in the world. New name? New life? No more standing in the rain guarding people who don't even see you. Daniel walked slowly down the corridor, creating distance from any windows. Any open spaces? You're offering me a bribe? I'm offering you a future, Helly corrected. You're a good soldier, Daniel. I did my research. Afghanistan. 2 tours. Honorable service. You deserved better than to end up as palace decoration. Like my job. Laughed. It was cold. Do you? Standing frozen while tourists mock you? Risking everything for people who will forget you exist the moment you leave? Princess Charlotte didn't forget. The line went quiet. When Hale spoke again, his voice had an edge. That little girl ruined months of planning, cost my employer millions, and you made it worse by playing hero. Your employer, Daniel said carefully. Who is that? Someone who doesn't lose, Daniel. Someone who gets what they want, no matter what it takes. And right now, what they want is you gone. Dead or paid off. I'm giving you the second option out of professional respect. Daniel reached his quarters. He stepped inside, locked the door. His hand was still on the panic button. Why call me? Daniel asked. Why not just finish it? Because I'm not a butcher, Hale said. I'm a professional. Killing you brings heat, investigations, media attention. But if you disappear voluntarily, if you take the money and vanish, everyone wins. Except the people who want Charlotte. They'll find another opportunity. Hale said dismissively. They always do. This isn't about one child, Daniel. This is about power, leverage, things you can't stop. Daniel sat on his bed, thought fast. Webb's surveillance team was listening to this, recording every word, but they couldn't move until Hale revealed more. Daniel needed to keep him talking. How much are we talking? Daniel asked. 2 million pounds? Deposited in any account you want. Anywhere in the world. 2 million. Enough to disappear forever. To start over. To never worry about money again. Daniel let the silence stretch. Let Hale think he was considering it. I need time, Daniel finally said. You have 24 hours, Hale replied. After that, the offer expires. And the alternative becomes permanent. How do I contact you? You don't. I'll call you tomorrow, same time. Be ready with your answer. The line went dead. Daniel sat in the darkness of his room. His hand finally released the panic button. His phone buzzed immediately. A text from an unknown number. But he knew it was Webb. Good work. Keep him talking. We're tracing the call. Daniel didn't respond. He just sat there, thinking about everything Hale had said. This isn't about one child. This is about power, leverage. What did that mean? Why did someone want Charlotte? Ransom didn't make sense. The royal family would never negotiate with kidnappers. It would set a precedent, make every royal a target. So what was the real motive? Daniel pulled out his laptop, started searching, discreetly, carefully. Royal succession, line of inheritance. Political implications. Charlotte was third in line to the throne. Behind her, Father William. Behind her, Brother George. But what if something happened to them? What if Charlotte became queen? And what if someone wanted control over a young, vulnerable queen? Daniel's blood ran cold. This wasn't just a kidnapping. This was a long game. A plan that stretched years into the future. Control the child. Control the crown. His phone rang again. This time, it was Miller. Get to the secure room. Now, Webb wants to talk. Daniel grabbed his jacket and moved fast. The palace corridors were empty this time of night. His footsteps echoed on marble floors. He reached the basement. The secure room. Webb was there with 3 other agents. All of them looked exhausted. We traced the call, Webb said immediately. Hal was in East London. Burner phone. He ditched it immediately after hanging up. But we got something else. She pulled up a screen. Security footage. A man entering a building, Marcus Hale, walking into a luxury apartment complex in Kensington. We've identified the building, Webb continued. High security. Diplomatic residence. Foreign nationals. Very wealthy foreign nationals. Your employer, Daniel said. Webb nodded. We believe so. But we can't move yet. We need proof. We need Hale to lead us directly to whoever's running this operation, which means I have to play along, Daniel said. For one more day, Webb confirmed. When he calls tomorrow, tell him you're in. Agree to the deal. He'll want to meet. To hand over the money, that's when we take him. And if he smells a trap, then we lose him. And whoever hired him stays hidden. Free to try again. Webb's eyes were hard. We need this, Foster. Not just for Charlotte. For every royal, every high-profile target. We need to know who's behind this. Daniel understood. He was the bait. The lure. The only chance they had. Right, he said. I'll do it. Miller put a hand on his shoulder. You'll have a full tactical team. Armed response. The moment Hell shows himself, we move. Daniel nodded. But something in his gut said it wouldn't be that simple. Men like Hale didn't survive by being careless. He'd have backup plans. Escape routes, insurance. This was going to get messy. The next 24 hours dragged like weeks. Daniel went through his duties, smiled at the staff, pretended everything was normal, but inside, he was counting down to the moment Hell would call, counting down to the moment everything would either end or explode. At exactly 9 p.m., his phone rang. Unknown. Number, Daniel was in his quarters. Alone. Webb's team was listening. Tracking ready. He answered. I'm in. Hale's voice was pleased. Smart choice. I knew you were a survivor. Where do we meet? Piccadilly Circus. Tomorrow morning. 6 a.m. Come alone. Unarmed. You'll receive further instructions when you arrive. How do I know you'll actually pay? You don't, Hale said simply. But you know what happens if you don't show? So really, you don't have a choice. The line went dead again. Daniel looked at the agents who'd materialized in his doorway. Webb stepped forward. Piccadilly Circus, she said. Public space. Crowded even at 6 a.m. He's smart. Too smart. Daniel asked. Webb's expression was grim. Maybe, but we're smarter. We'll have over 50 officers in place. Surveillance on every angle. The moment Hale shows himself, we take him. And if he brings back up, then it becomes a fight, Webb said simply. Are you ready for that? Daniel thought about Charlotte. About her trust. Her bravery. About doing the right thing, even when it cost everything.
Hey.
Yeah, he said. I'm ready. 6 a.m. came faster than Daniel wanted. Piccadilly Circus was already awake. Street vendors setting up, early commuters rushing to the underground, tourists taking photos of the famous electronic billboards, and somewhere in the crowd, 50 MI5 agents pretending to be normal people. Daniel stood near the statue of Eros, hands in his jacket pockets, one hand on the panic button, the other on his phone. He wore civilian clothes, jeans, dark jacket. Nothing that screamed military or security, but he felt exposed, vulnerable. His phone buzzed. New. Text message from an unknown number. Walk north on Regent Street. Keep your phone visible. Don't look around. Daniel started walking. His heart rate steady. His breathing controlled. This was just like Afghanistan. Just like walking through a hostile village. Not knowing if the next person you passed was friend or enemy. Except this time. The enemy knew exactly who he was. Another text turned left on Great Marlborough Street. Daniel turned. The street was quieter here. Fewer people, more shadows. His instincts screamed danger. Another text. Enter the cafe on your right. Sit at the back table. Daniel saw it. A small cafe with steamed-up windows. He pushed through the door. The smell of coffee and pastries hit him. Half a dozen customers scattered around, none of them Hale. He walked to the back table. Sat with his back to the wall. Military habit. A waiter approached. Young kid. Maybe 20. Coffee. He asked. Daniel nodded. Black. The waiter disappeared. Daniel's phone buzzed again. Look under the table. Daniel's blood turned cold. Slowly, he reached down. His fingers found something taped beneath the table. An envelope. He pulled it free. Inside was a key, and a note written in neat handwriting. You passed the first test. Storage locker 247, Liverpool Street Station. Your money is there. Go alone, collect it, and disappear. If you contact the police, the deal is off, and Charlotte becomes a target again. You have 1 hour. Daniel's jaw clenched. This was the trap. Hulle wasn't here. He'd never planned to be here. He'd led Daniel away from the palace, away from protection, to a second location where Webb's team couldn't follow without being spotted. The waiter returned with coffee, set it down, walked away. Daniel pulled out his phone, texted Webb. He sent me to Liverpool Street. Storage locker. Do I go? The response came fast. We're repositioning. Give us 10 minutes and go. We'll be there. 10 minutes felt like 10 hours. Daniel sipped his coffee, watched the door, watched the other customers. Any of them could be Hale's people. Any of them could be watching. Finally, his phone buzzed. We're in place. Go now. Daniel left money on the table, walked out into the cold morning air. Liverpool Street Station was a 15-minute walk. He moved fast. Not running, but not casual either. The station was chaos. Thousands of commuters, trains arriving and departing, announcements echoing over loudspeakers. Daniel found the storage lockers in the lower level. Rows of gray metal doors. Hundreds of them. He found 247, inserted the key. Turned it, the door swung open. Inside was a black duffel bag. Daniel pulled it out, unzipped it slowly. Money. Stacks and stacks of 50-pound notes. More money than he'd ever seen in his life. And underneath the money, something else. A phone. As Daniel stared at it, the phone began to ring. He answered. Hale's voice was amused. Surprised? Where are you? Far away from you and your MI5 friends. You really thought I'd walk into a trap? I've been doing this for 20 years, Daniel. Daniel's hand tightened on the phone. So what now? I take the money and you let me walk. No, Hale said. Now you make the real choice. What choice? Look at the bottom of the bag. Daniel moved the money aside. His blood froze. A small device. Blinking red light, timer counting down. 12 minutes. 11:59. 11:58. That's a bomb, Hale said casually. Not a big one, but big enough to take out half the station if it goes off. Hundreds of innocent people dead. All because of you. Daniel's mind raced. You're bluffing. Am I? You've got 11 minutes to decide. Walk away with the money. Leave the bag. Let it explode. Blame me. Collect your reward as a hero who tried to stop it but couldn't. Or stay and try to disarm it. Risk your life. Maybe save everyone. Maybe die trying. There's a third option, Daniel said coldly. I alert security. Evacuate the station. Your bomb becomes worthless. Do that and Charlotte dies, Hale said. I have people watching the palace right now. The moment you alert anyone, they move. 10 minutes later, the princess has a tragic accident. Your choice, Daniel? Save strangers, or save the girl you risked everything for. Daniel felt sick. This was impossible. An impossible choice. Why? Daniel asked. Why do this? Because I want you to understand, Hale said. This isn't about right or wrong, good or evil. It's about power. And the people I work for have all the power. They wanted Charlotte. You stopped them. So now, they want you to suffer. To know that your heroism costs lives, one way or another. The timer hit 10 minutes. Daniel looked around the station. Saw a mother holding her child's hand, an elderly couple sharing a newspaper, a teenager with headphones, dancing to music only he could hear. hundreds of lives, or one little girl who trusted him. Daniel made his choice. He grabbed the bag, started running. Not toward the exit, toward the platform, toward the tracks. "What are you doing?" Hale's voice was sharp in his ear. Daniel didn't answer. He jumped down onto the tracks, ignored the shouts of security, ran into the tunnel. Away from people, away from the station. 8 minutes. His lungs burned. His legs screamed, but he kept running. Deeper into the darkness. 7 minutes. He heard Webb's voice in his earpiece. The panic button had activated. "Foster, what's your position?" "Tunnel. East side. Bomb. Evacuate the station." "Now we're on it." "Get out of there." 6 minutes. Daniel saw light ahead. Another platform. Smaller. A maintenance area. 5 minutes. He threw the bag as far as he could. Watched it disappear into the darkness. Then turned and ran for minutes. He could see the station behind him now. Security flooding the area. People evacuating. Webb's team moving like a machine. 3 minutes. Daniel climbed back onto the platform. Webb grabbed him. "Where's the device?" "Down the tunnel. Maybe 100 meters. It's the explosion cut him off. Not huge, not devastating, but loud, so loud. The ground shook. Smoke billowed from the tunnel, but the station was safe. The people were safe. Daniel collapsed against the wall, gasping for air. Webb was on her radio. "Bomb disposal to the east tunnel. And get me eyes on the palace." "Now?" Daniel's blood went cold.
"Pallet."
"She's fine," Webb said, reading his expression. "We had extra security on her the moment you activated the panic button. No one got close." Daniel closed his eyes. Let the relief wash over him. "It was a bluff," Webb continued. "Hale was betting you'd choose yourself over others, that you'd take the money and run. When you didn't, when you risked your life instead, he lost his leverage. Did you get him?" Webb smiled. It was sharp, predatory. We got him. And his employer. Tracked the call. Raided the Kensington apartment 20 minutes ago. Turns out it was a foreign oligarch with political ambitions. He wanted leverage over the British government. Control over a future queen. Daniel let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. It's over, Webb confirmed. 2 weeks later, Daniel stood in a palace garden. The sun was setting. Golden light painting everything warm. Princess Charlotte sat on a bench nearby. Her parents had allowed this meeting. Just a few minutes. Supervised, of course, but a chance to say goodbye. "Are you leaving?" Charlotte asked. Her voice was small. For a while, Daniel said gently, "I need to rest. To figure out what comes next." Charlotte nodded. Then she stood and walked over to him. Held out her hand. In her palm was a small medal. The king's personal seal. Right. "Grandfather wanted you to have this," she said. "For bravery. For protecting me." Daniel took it carefully. "Thank you, Your Highness." "Charlotte," she corrected. "You can call me Charlotte." Daniel smiled. "Thank you, Charlotte." She looked up at him with those same eyes that had found him at the gate. "You could have left me that day. You could have stayed a statue, but you didn't. You broke the rules for me. Sometimes the rules need breaking," Daniel said. "Sometimes doing the right thing means taking a risk." Charlotte hugged him suddenly, quickly, then stepped back. Embarrassed. "Be safe," she said. "You too." As Daniel walked away from the palace for the last time, he felt lighter than he had in years. He'd lost his position, his routine, his old life. But he'd gained something more important. The knowledge that when it mattered most, he'd made the right choice. And that's somewhere in that palace. A little girl was safe, alive, because one guard decided to listen. Years later, when Daniel would tell this story, people would ask him if he regretted it. Regretted throwing away his career, risking his life, and every time, his answer was the same. Not for a second. Because some things are worth breaking the rules. For some people are worth saving, and sometimes The bravest thing you can do is simply choose to care, even when the world tells you not to.